Welcome everyone to another Total War Warhammer 2 online multiplayer replay. Today we are having another high elf replay here, this time rolling with triple white lines of traits. They all have gold chevrons. I don't have exactly the highest opinion on these guys. Yes, they have decent stats, however only 5600 HP. As elves they do have less HP than everyone else. For example, these longbeards have 6400 HP. This gives the longbeards a lot more staying power than the elves. So they do rely on healing from other spellcasters and also that martial prowess to stay in the top of their shape. And once they lose that martial prowess, they will trade really badly against everyone else on the battlefield. In an attempt to make them better, I just basically throw money at the problem, slap some funds and chevrons on them, and now we are having triple gold lions on the battlefield. For the rest of the build, we have a bunch of rangers and also triple eagle claw bolt throwers to counteract any artillery. At the back, 2 lion chariots of trace and a mage of beasts coming in with the eagle summon and amber spear. For the leadership of the battle, we have Tyrion coming in with most of his kit. Heart of Avalon to provide that healing burst. We have Stand Your Ground to provide some melee stat buffs, and also Feint and Repulse to provide more dueling capabilities. For the Dawi army, we have a whole line of miners with blasting charges, Penta Thunders, so a lot of armor piercing fire. Any chariots that dare to push in will get focused down by all these crossfire. For melee protection, we have some dwarfs with great weapons, longbeards with great weapons on the flanks. In the middle, we have some miners guarding the cannons. In the skies, we have 2 gyrocopters with brimstone guns, no doubt another tool for countering chariots, and Floric Ironbrow leading the army with Rune of Doom, Rune of Negation for emergency damage resistance, and also Rune of Wrath and Ruin, no doubt to clear out some of that ranger chaff. And that's basically for the army builds. Let's get the battle started. Now for the dwarf army, I really like the formation of the army deployment here. Just look at how the dwarf player scattered his units around the battlefield with a lot of space in between. With all these miners pushing ahead, there will be a hard time for any archers to push up ahead and fire into the back of the thunders, also providing a lot of isolation, just screening out enemy infantry, blocking them away from all these thunders. While the chariots will have to penetrate these formations and get into the backlines, isolating themselves, allowing them to get focused down by all this armor-piercing fire. On the far end, we have the gyrocopters pushing for the artillery of the high elves. Eagle claw bolt throwers are just shooting into some of the cannons and shooting around the battlefield. Some of them trying to turn around and take down the gyrocopters, as they are the only missile fire for the high elves. Really, their job is just to snipe out all the low model count units of armor-piercing fire to protect the infantry and chariots. For the rest of the army, we're just pushing ahead, like just charging forward. With the gyros threatening our backline, we don't exactly have the artillery advantage. We might as well just push ahead to face down the stunties in glorious hand-to-hand combat. Of course, we don't want our infantry dying fruitlessly in the explosions of blasting charges, so we'll just throw our chariots in, send them into melee combat against these miners who will be distracted by all these melee chariots. And now we have the chance to charge in our white lions undisturbed by all these blasting charges, as they did not have the chance to fire. One of the miners managed to throw out some blasting charges, but still not a lot of damage, as the lion chariots disrupting their formation, making the blasting charge volley really not ideal. A third unit of miners also unable to throw their blasting charges as Tyrion dragged them into melee. We have some rangers flanking around, charging into the thunders who are focusing down all these lion chariots. A hail of units, the focus fire from the Penta Thunders, they just melted all these lion chariots in an instant, high elf losing some valuable killing power. Good news is we are successful in the front line as the gold lions shred through all these miners. With 45 attack, 46 melee defense, these white lions of trace just coming out victorious in the melee engagement, as they were mostly unaffected by the blasting charges. And with the miners gone, the white lions are running into some longbeards. They will trade a little bit less cost efficiently, as the longbeards do have very good melee defense and quite some decent armor piercing damage. But basically the miners line are buckling and our white lions are just driving forward with 33 speed. They do have enough speed to catch up on these thunders. While these white lions are just charging forward, more rangers getting into combat to charge into the miners. Every high elf infantry is driving forward for the gun lines. The Lion Chariots are basically destroyed, so they're just trying to get back into battle, getting whatever free damage they can. Rangers tying down all these Thunders, buying time for the White Lions to catch up and clean up all this hot mess. Over here, the White Lions and the Longbeards are still juking it out. The Longbeards are holding, but the White Lions does seem to get the upper hand right now. While at the back, we have some Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers still firing away, trying to focus down these Thunders with the scatter shot. The other bolt thrower seems to be focusing down the cannon, who just got the last model destroyed. Now the bolt thrower seems to have moved on to the artillery crewmen. They should really start switching out targets and start focusing down these Thunders who are doing quite a bit damage to White Lions. One thing good about them is they do have that Lion's Pelt, providing that nice missile resistance of 30%. That allows them to tank quite a few of these AP shots, and now they'll be switching targets, charging into the Thunders to hack them down. On the far side, Rangers, after cleaning up this flank, will be shifting towards the other to support the White Lions against the double Longbeards. Over here, Rangers pushing away some of the miners, Dwarf Warriors with great weapons forgotten over here, so basically a tactical reserve. And over here, White Lions of Shrey's winning against the Longbeards, but it's taking them so long to cut through this highly defensive unit. So imagine what would happen if we don't have those chevrons on the unit. It would just take them even longer and more HP losses to get through this one unit of Longbeards. Especially right now, Rune of Doom is popped, providing massive damage boost to all these armor-piercing units. This unique rune to Thoric really turns the table here, allowing the Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors to hit more consistently on my battered units who have lost their martial prowess due to all the HP lost. Tyrion getting his hands dirty into combat by dueling Thoric Ironbrow, but Thoric being heavily armored, and also one very important attribute here, physical resistance provided by his Anvil of Doom, making Thoric much tankier. Now combined with the massive ward save of 40%, probably an overcast rune of negation, amounting to 65% damage reduction to all physical attacks. With Thoric being tankier than ever, Tyrion doing minimal damage while taking quite some armor-piercing damage in return by Thoric Ironbrow. On the other hand, we have some Thunders who actually stopped routing, who will be doing some really nice damage if they can return to the battlefield. We also have more Thunders returning, while a summoned Eagle is pushing away all these gyrocopters, allowing my Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers to be continuously firing while undisturbed by the aerial forces, although there are some tattered miners who are now coming back and now charging down these Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower crew. Still being rather healthy, these crewmen does have the martial prowess activated on them. The melee defense buff will help them survive a little longer. Now back to the front line, White Lions have pretty much wiped out all melee infantry from the Dawis, leaving only the Thunders to unleash their bullets onto my advancing units, doing some really nice damage to Tyrion and my White Lions. So White Lions 33 speed will be charging into combat. They're able to quickly close the gap between them and their targets while tanking out the salvos with their Lion's Pelt. Despite being so beat up, these White Lions are still fighting due to all the extra leadership from the Chevrons, buying them some time to dish out more damage on the Thunders. Although the artillery crew coming in from behind, applying that rear charge penalty, might actually break these poor Lions. On the flank, we have some Rangers pushing for the Thunders. Rangers with their anti-infantry bonuses and also superior speed, they should be able to easily catch up with the Thunders and shred through these poor missile units. Some Thunders are shooting at their backs, but some White Lions are coming to their aid, trying to chase down whatever armor-piercing missiles that the Dwarves still have, as they can easily turn the game around with some nice Thunder crossfire. Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, the tactical reserve, charging into some Rangers, but now they're getting flanked by the White Lions sandwiched between two units. They will take some massive damage and possibly lose this combat. While in the front line, Tyrion successfully breaking off Thoric Ironbrow, proving himself as the supreme duelist. Now the Longbeards charging in, trying to block him off and save their leash, who are trying to return to the safety of some cover of Thunders. Their armor-piercing damage no doubt will be applying huge pressure onto Tyrion, but remember, Tyrion still have his secret weapon, the Heart of Avalorn. He still have some massive healing that has yet to be activated, and that is something to be aware of in this kind of late game situation. Right now, all units on the battlefield are rather battered, and thus the balance of power is still even. The Heart of Avalorn proc will provide a huge healing boost to Tyrion, providing a massive balance of power push. Right after killing Thoric, Tyrion is getting focused down by the Thunders, and suddenly the healing comes in. Balance of power is pushed all the way in the favor of the High Elves, and all these tattered dwarf units just straight up routed due to a stronger enemy nearby. Now the dwarves lost all their killing power, nothing can really threaten Tyrion at this point, so the dwarf player has called in a surrender. The Dowies might have to settle the grudges another day, another time. Before we go into the army performances, I would like to say a big thanks to you for watching my video. If you enjoy it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a new video. They will be ranging from topics including battle replays like this one, wild army builds, and also tips and strategies for online multiplayer for Total War Warhammer 2. And if you have any replays that you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. Now for the army performances, the High Elves, Infantry, the Rangers did decently. One of them got stuck on some Longbeards, so they got shredded pretty hard, but one of them was able to get on some Thunders and basically cut through all these expensive range infantry of the Dwarves. The Warlion Chariots, unfortunately they got focused down, shredded by all the hail of bullets from the Thunders right there, just not doing a lot of damage overall. Neither did the Eagle Claw bolt throwers, as they didn't really have that many good targets to shoot at. Maybe some of the cannons and the gyrocopters did some okay damage, but overall nothing too impressive. Basically, this game was carried on the backs of these white lions of Thrace. With 1 gold chevron, they all cost 1039 gold each, so one of them was not able to recover all the cost, but overall, they did really well. With over 100 kills on every single one unit, this one hitting up to 1209 value, was able to shred through a lot of these miners, Longbeards, and using their 33 speed, which is faster than most if not all heavy infantry, and basically cut down all these Thunders as they are able to caught up on these missile units. Also, the leadership provided by the extra chevrons were able to give them a little bit more staying power, just fighting down till the last sliver of HP and hold the Longbeards in place, allowing other units to charge in. Some of the ranger units were able to flank some of the dwarf warriors, essentially using their stats advantage here with all the chevrons and martial prowess as well as their armor piercing damage to cut through a lot of the heavily armored Dowie infantry. Now for the heroes, the Mage of Beasts wasn't able to do too much here other than summon some eagles and chase away choppers. But Tyrion soloing Floric Ironbrow and also killing some of the infantry of the Dowie, getting some pretty good value out of the fight. And in the end, using that Heart of Avalon proc to win the game by pushing the balance of power. As for the Dowies, the miners weren't able to maximize their value with blasting charges as a lot of those miners were silenced. This one was able to chuck out some decent blasting charges, but in the end still got shredded by all the White Lions and Rangers. The Dwarf Warriors with great weapons just have crap stats overall, so they were no match for the elite White Lions, the Gold Lions of Thrace. Longbeards, in general, they would have traded a lot better against White Lions, especially with the Rune of Doom buff, giving them a melee attack boost, but this time, White Lions were able to hold their own, especially with that stat buffs from all the chevrons, essentially overpowering the Longbeards. Thunders there generally doing pretty well, one of them even getting up to 1100 gold damage in the chevron, thanks to focusing down all these lion chariots, and also shooting the White Lions of Thrace in the face. Still, being a slow heavy infantry, they were caught up by all the White Lions and Rangers, the faster elven infantry, and getting chased down to their last man. In the skies, the gyrocopters with brimstone guns were mainly just spending their time focusing down the artillery there, not a lot of value either. They probably should have spent more time shooting the White Lions instead. Cannons getting focused down by the Eagle Claw bolt throwers, so getting shredded in combat. Basically, bolt throwers are the bane of all artillery. Now in the end of this video, I would just want to talk about these White Lions a little bit more, as I do not exactly have the highest opinion on these guys. Now if we compare them to other mid-range heavy infantry with armor piercing like the Chaos Warriors, we look at them and we can see that with 50 more gold, we get a unit with much more HP, more armor, more melee defense, more weapon strength, and more charge bonus. And White Lions in a straight up melee trade will just get shredded by these heavy infantry of the Chaos by their brute force. Yeah, sure, they do have the missile resistance, but that amounts to nothing in a straight up melee trade. And with their lower HP, they just don't really have that kind of staying power as other heavy infantry, and once they lose their martial prowess when going under half health, they are just another great weapon infantry with average melee stats and below average hit points. they need a lot of support elements for them to work. Maybe Curse of Onra Air to debuff their enemy stats, or a lot of healing power from say a Lario or a Live Mage to keep their HP full and prevent their models being killed. Luckily for them, High Elves are never in lack of supporting abilities, but still, as an independent unit, these guys just don't quite perform. I know this isn't the most popular opinion around here, as a lot of players do think that the White Lions are a cost-effective armor-piercing infantry. So I want to know, what do you think about this unit? Do you think they're strong, or do you think they're weak? And what makes them so? What does a High Elf army need for these White Lions to work in combat? Feel free to share your thoughts about the unit down in the comment section below. And that's about it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tacticalwitch, signing out.